Today we're going to be reading our personal statements and wait to the end for some tips and tricks on improving your personal statement. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Or read the prompt first.
So we applied in 2020, going into 2021. We started in June of 2021. Our prompt for our personal statement was, every person has a story that has led them to a career. Since there are a variety of healthcare professions that help others, please go beyond therapy and share your deeper story that has confirmed your decision to specifically pursue physical therapy as your career. So I'm going to read my personal statement, Haley's going to read hers, and we'll kind of break it down for you a little bit. So, being adopted from China, I always knew that I was lucky. Growing up in a safe neighborhood where I could get a good education and always have access to the healthcare that I needed is a privilege that not everyone in the world is fortunate enough to have. The day I realized just how fortunate I am was the day that I returned to China to visit the orphanage where I spent the first few months of my life. As I distributed toys and played with the children, I could not wipe the smile off of my face. Bringing joy to the kids at the orphanage was an incredible experience and one that I will never forget. They were overjoyed and in awe of even the most basic gifts, particularly a pack of colorful balloons to which their teacher at the orphanage used to teach them colors. All of the children were running around, laughing and playing with their inflated balloons. The orphanage director told me that they had not seen the children this happy for a long time. She shared how difficult it was to find homes for the children because they are too old. Most families who adopt from China do so with the intent of adopting an infant, not a child who has to learn to speak a new language and has attachments to the orphanage itself. At the time I was visiting the orphanage, there was a high demand for adoptions from China to the United States. Because of this, I assumed that there would be a lesser number of infants still at the orphanage. I was shocked to learn that the orphanage had dozens of babies that would most likely never be eligible for adoption. It was heartbreaking when I learned that the reason that these children would most likely never get adopted was because they had physical disabilities. Most families looking to adopt from China were in search of a healthy baby rather than one with special needs or physical disabilities. The simple necessity of mobility was a significant barrier for many of them, and a freedom that I realize many of us take for granted. The children with these disabilities were abandoned because their families could not get them the proper care that they needed to lead a functioning, independent life. Even the orphanage struggled to provide the basic health care that the children needed. Almost all of the medical needs these children were experiencing would be easily treated in the United States, but because they do not have access to the health care they need, their fate had already been decided for them. During this time in China, I gained a deeper appreciation for the education, living conditions, and most importantly, healthcare I had access to growing up. From that moment on, I knew I needed to pursue a career that would provide a brighter future for those who face obstacles due to their physical disabilities. I knew that physical therapy was the right path for me because I knew that this was the best way to give hope to the hopeless and help people like the children who changed my life forever. I knew that even the smallest gesture or change in someone's life can lead to a significant increase in their quality of life for them. I wanted to be the catalyst for that kind of change in the lives of people who face these physical barriers beyond their control. Since that trip, I've spent time seizing every opportunity for leadership and growth that I can. I began taking more anatomy and physiology focused courses in high school in order to best prepare myself for college. During my undergraduate career, I had made sure to get involved on campus as much as I could. I took on leadership positions, attending professional development workshops and conventions, and working closely with faculty at my school to develop my leadership skills. I did my best to pass on the knowledge I had acquired to other students as well by volunteering to present at a collegiate leadership summit at SIUE, my undergrad. By taking on these challenges and opportunities, I was able to grow academically, professionally, and personally. I believe that these experiences with leading a team, communicating effectively with others, and developing skills and professionalism have greatly prepared me to take on a career in physical therapy.
Alrighty, so I had the same essay prompt. So every person has a story that has led them to a career. Since there are a variety of healthcare professionals that help others, please go beyond your initial interaction or experiences with physical therapy and share the deeper story that has confirmed your decision to specifically pursue physical therapy as your career. Christmas of 2012, I was given my first puzzle. I saw that this intricate puzzle contained interlocking cords that appeared to hold a box together. The only instructions given stated, "Open the box." I was intrigued and I began to work on it. I tried several different solutions and none of these worked, but I was determined. I kept at it until finally I unlocked the box. I proudly presented my findings to my parents, only for them to give me another puzzle. These puzzles looked nearly identical in its structure and properties. I confidently took it, feeling I would solve it quickly. To my dismay, I did not. Despite its similarities with the first puzzle, the solution I had tried for the previous box was not working. When I began using different solutions, I finally unlocked the box. And that day, I learned that to properly solve puzzles, one must see the presenting problem, use their knowledge to gather solutions, and use their hands to manipulate the puzzle to finally reveal the solution. These puzzles became one of my favorite pastimes. They stimulate my mind, grant me an avenue to strengthen and deepen my connections with others whom I work out problems with, and I gain knowledge each time I discover the correct solutions. At the age of 14, I was introduced to physical therapy when I injured my knee. Shortly after I visited a physical therapist, he would watch how my knee functioned without assistance, manipulated my knee to relieve any scar tissue and reduce swelling, and would just prescribe me exercises to strengthen my knee. As I grew, I became more invested in the field of physical therapy, as the profession mimicked the complexity of puzzles. The human body is a complex puzzle containing smaller complex puzzles. Each puzzle is different, and each will require different solutions to treat the presenting problem. During my time as an intern in physical therapy settings, I learned that the two of the same deficit or injury may require different treatments. To properly treat patients, similar to how to solve a puzzle, a physical therapist must be able to use one's eyes to see current or past traumas to the body, knowledge to understand which treatments must be utilized, and hands to manipulate the body to create beneficial changes or reduce pain. I took the initiative to use these same practices when I became an intern for the women's soccer team at UC Irvine. Halfway into a soccer match, one of the athletes fell to the ground, clutching her leg. Once the PT and I got to her, I watched him perform several tests on her knee. I visualized the differences in the degree of how far her tibia moved anteriorly compared to her non-injured tibia. I understand that there was a possible tear in her ACL, as her ACL prevents such movements. We then carried her off the field, where I assisted in manipulating her knee to prevent further injury. As the PT finished stabilizing her knee, I saw that she was still in hysterics, so I massaged her hands and gently consoled her to calm down. We brought her to the physician, who would later diagnose her with having a grade 3 tear of her ACL. A year prior, a different athlete had sustained the same injury, so initially we began the same treatment plan after her surgery. Under supervision, I, along with co-interns, began her rehab. After working with her for a few months, I noticed that she had begun to plateau in her progression. A few weeks after that, she began to regress. It became apparent quickly that she was not healing in a similar fashion as the athlete a year prior. I congregated a small group of my co-interns to discuss ideas regarding her regression and took the lead to meet with the PT to discuss our patient's treatment plan. The PT immediately changed his treatment plans and continued to change until one finally worked and she began to progress sufficiently. I continued to work with her all the way until she was able to fully return to play. Her progression brought back memories of my puzzles and how each puzzle, regardless of how similar they may appear, may require a different solution. Just as proud as I feel when I complete a puzzle, I was proud of her progression and mainly her willingness to progress despite several setbacks. This similarity draws me to this profession. It is my passion to solve puzzles, and the human body is the most difficult puzzle to solve, and my dream is to use my eyes, knowledge, and hands to solve any complex puzzle I come across.
Well, if you guys want to get more information, you can check out our blog post on this as well, is what to write my PTCast personal statement or essay about. So we kind of go into it a little bit there, but I know for mine, I approached it with not having a lot of experience in physical therapy, so I tried to relate my experiences to attributes that I could see helping a physical therapist in the future. So I really tried to look back on how I think that physical therapy could have helped people in my past. For example, the orphanage that I talked about in my essay, there were kids there who couldn't get adopted because they had physical disabilities. Most of these are pertaining to like walking or like brushing their own teeth or feeding themselves, things like that. And it's mainly just because they didn't get up and walk every day. They had like one person watching like 30 different kids. So looking at it from the perspective of movement is medicine, if those kids just had the opportunity and the access to the care that they needed to exercise every day, get up and walk, do these activities by themselves, I think that that could have greatly impacted their ability to function independently and probably would have gotten them more likely to be adopted into the United States where they could get that care that they needed.
For me, when I approached my essays, I had a lot of friends who apply to schools and they would send me their essays just to have another set of eyes to read, just to make sure like the grammar's okay and things like that. And it just seemed like it was almost the same story of they injured themselves and they were introduced to PT. Like even my essay, I include that. But I didn't want that to be the main focus, since while it's not bad, it's not a bad essay, it's a common one, and I just wanted to be a little bit more unique. So that's why I talked about puzzles for the first paragraph. And so I wanted to try to make it as unique to PT as possible. And I wanted it to basically, for any reader to read it, that they would know, like if I didn't have the word PT or physical therapy in it, that they would know that I'm still talking about physical therapy. I don't want them to be able to switch it with nursing or PA or whatever other healthcare. I wanted to be very specific to physical therapy, so that they know like this is the career that I want to go in. So for you, I would just recommend the same exact thing. Like make sure that your essay is specific enough. I think that's where most students fail, is making it too broad.
I think it's less about the profession itself and more about what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Just making sure that you're clear, and like also just the basic things, like have a few people read it. So like a parent, a friend, sibling, it doesn't matter. Just have like other people read it, at least so it makes sense and like the grammar flows well. Just because it makes sense to you doesn't mean it will make sense to someone else too. And I sent it to friends in PT, OT, my parents, my sisters, and my friends. I had everyone that I could read it to make sure it made sense, and that it sounded like I was very passionate for this field.
My biggest advice would be to start out strong. If you think that you're coming on too strong in the beginning, you're probably not. These people who are reading your essay are reading like thousands of these essays, and many of them do sound the same. They're all started like, I knew I wanted to go into physical therapy because I think you need something more. You should try to come up with something unique about yourself, or unique experience that you may have, or something that like an interest that you really like drives you.
Yeah, just comment below if you have any questions.
You can DM us on Instagram. You can email us dysfunctionalanatomypt@gmail.com.
We have more tips and tricks on how to help increase your chances of getting into PT school. We share our experience of how it's been going with our education, with clinicals as well.
And most importantly, check out our website. We have a bunch of free resources on there. We also have services on there, so if you need help like getting started on your PT essay, let's chat.